College football fans can't get too comfortable with their favorite players. Of course, it's only 3 or 4 years, and then it's off to graduation or possibly the NFL. We bring in Jim Hammett of Cardiac Hill to talk about some impact players for the Pitt Panthers in 2014 that we won't see this fall. So we're going to look at those guys, their presence on the field, but more importantly, spinning it forward, who's going to replace them. All right, Jim. Of course, thanks so much for joining us. So we're going to talk about the one Pitt draftee going to the Minnesota Vikings in the 4th round, tackle TJ Clemmings. So if you can talk about Clemmings, what he brought to the table, obviously a very substantial talent being drafted in the first 4 rounds of the NFL draft, but more importantly, how you see the offensive line shaking out next year.
Well, talking about TJ Clemmings a little bit, he was kind of an interesting player. He came in as a 4-star defensive end, and midway through his career actually made the switch to tackle. So that's kind of where his draft stock kind of fell. Teams were intrigued by his athleticism, his defensive background. He was just kind of very raw at the position. But he ended up being a very good player at right tackle for Pitt. And, he's going to be missed. But the thing with Paul Chris and his staff, they had that emphasis on adding offensive linemen. And they really brought in offensive linemen. So I think a guy that could step in and be the tackle, Jared Jones-Smith, he alternated series last year. He came in and played. He's a big redshirt sophomore out of Philadelphia. He's 6'7", 330. I mean, he's a very big kid. And they also redshirted the top offensive lineman from Pennsylvania, prior recruiting class, Alex Buxer. He's a local kid from Mount Lebanon. He's another kid that's going to be pushing for time. And he's joining an offensive line with Dorian Johnson, a former 5-star recruit, Adam Bisnawadi. They have a lot of talent up front. So, it's kind of a little bit of a tradition going with offensive linemen. So I think they're going to want to, build on what TJ Clemmings brought to the table.
So we know Connor's really good at running back, but based on what you just outlined, he's definitely got some help up front when you start throwing out those 4- and 5-star recruits. The 5-stars especially are very, very rare. So that's pretty impressive. Let's go to defense, Jim. You lose a couple of very productive linebackers here in Anthony Gonzalez. Let me read off the numbers. Led the Panthers in tackles with 81 total tackles last year, 5 tackles for loss, and also Todd Thomas with 73 total tackles. He was second on the team and 5.5 tackles for loss. So can you size up the linebacker position for us?
Well, I think they have 2 natural fits to jump right in there and take their spots, guys that have played a lot through the years. Bam Bradley is one of note. He's a junior. He's played for a few years. He's an Ohio kid. And actually his half-brother, Nicholas Grigsby, is also, the other outside linebacker. He kind of played a special pass rushing role last year. So I think both guys can come in, and it gives them some experience. They also have some depth. Jamal Davis from Florida redshirted last year. He's from Ohio, rather. James Folson's from Florida. So they have some linebackers in the system, but it really comes down to, I think, Bam Bradley and Nicholas Grigsby are 2 guys that are going to step up. And I really look for Bam Bradley to have a big year.
Well, Jim, most of these teams we're talking to and the bloggers that cover these teams losing 7, 8, 9 impact players on offense and defense. So you appear to be in pretty good shape, losing, the one big tackle, couple linebackers that it sounds like you're pretty comfortable in their replacement. So you're in pretty good shape coming up this fall.
Yeah, I think Pitt on offense is looking pretty good. Like we've mentioned so many times before with Connor and Boyd and the line, Boyd. But, defense, there's obviously a lot of questions. There's defensive line's still a little bit shaky. They need to get some pass rushing. Corner is a little thin at times. And the biggest thing with the defense and how it's going to get upgraded is with Coach Narduzzi and his pedigree being one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. I think he's really going to change a lot of the system. And I think that's what they need, because the personnel right now isn't entirely in the greatest of shape. But I think coaching is going to carry them a lot on defense.
Right, Jim Hammett, Cardiac Hill, Pitt Panthers, SB Nation. Good stuff from Jim as always. Hopefully we can track you down sometime in the summer and set up August camp and possibly look at the schedule as well.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.